There comes a moment in your life when you must understand a simple, brutal truth. Your constant availability is your silent surrender. The more you show up without being summoned, the more you give without being asked, the more you speak without being heard, the more you become invisible. Power is not found in presence. Power is born in absence. The world has always misunderstood value. Most people believe that to be seen, to be loved, or to be respected, they must give more, speak more, be present more. But this is the logic of the desperate. What is offered too freely is treated as common. What is always available is never desired. Scarcity, not abundance, creates demand. The human mind is drawn not to what it has, but to what it cannot easily reach. The more difficult something is to obtain, the more it is chased, praised and feared. This is true of power, love, respect and influence. People instinctively want what they cannot have. They crave the mysterious, the distant, the unattainable. When you are always present, always answering calls, always showing up, you become familiar, and familiarity kills curiosity. It dulls the senses. The very people you think you are pleasing by being available begin to overlook you. They see your presence as a given, not a gift. They expect your time rather than earn it. And slowly, without even noticing, they stop valuing you, not because you lack worth, but because you've made yourself too easy to access. A man of power must be seen like a fortress, visible, but not open to all. He must be like a rare painting locked behind glass, admired from a distance, and when seen up close, treated with reverence. If everyone can walk in, touch, speak, and interrupt, then he is not feared, he is not valued, he is simply available, like air, necessary, but invisible. But if he makes himself scarce, if he only appears when it matters, if he makes others wait, then even his silence becomes meaningful. His absence speaks louder than another man's presence. This is not arrogance. It is calculation. It is understanding that humans assign value emotionally, not logically. We chase what eludes us. We admire what stands apart. We respect what we cannot easily influence. And so when you deny access, you increase demand. When you walk away, others are pulled toward you. When you say no, your yes becomes a treasure. That is the way of power. That is how rulers maintain their throne. Not by shouting, not by pleasing, not by chasing, but by mastering the art of being seen less and desired more. Every moment you are available to those who have not earned your presence. You spend your value like cheap coin. You train people to take you for granted. They stop listening to your words, not because your wisdom has faded, but because your voice is no longer rare. Even truth, when spoken too often, loses its edge, but a single word from a silent man can shake a room if he has first mastered the art of restraint. Those who wish to command must be comfortable with being unseen. Let others speak constantly. Let them post daily. Let them be present in every room, responding to every call. You be rare, be deliberate. Let them wonder where you are, what you're doing and what you'll say next. Let them miss your presence. Let them realize that your time is not a door left open, but a gate that only few can pass. That is how value is not just built, but protected. That is how scarcity becomes strength. To be constantly available is to send a silent message to the world. I need you more than you need me. This is the language of the weak, the submissive and the forgettable. Power does not beg. Power does not wait to be invited. Power enters on its own terms or not at all. When you are always there, always answering, always responding, always present, you are not perceived as generous. You are perceived as needy. And need is the great enemy of respect. The powerful are not seen often, not because they lack time, but because they understand the value of absence. Their time is not given freely, it is earned. They do not make themselves available to everyone, because they are not equal to everyone. To remain constantly accessible is to blur the lines between authority and servitude. When a ruler walks among the people daily, he ceases to be a figure of command, and becomes a figure of routine. There is no fear, no awe, no mystique. Familiarity invites familiarity, and power erodes in the presence of comfort. The truly powerful do not chase, they attract. Their value does not come from how often they appear, but from how controlled they are in granting access to themselves. To be rare is to be desired. To be scarce is to be speculated about. People begin to speak your name more when you are not in the room. Your image grows in their minds, not because of your presence, but because of your restraint. But when you are always available, there is no room for mystery. There is no space to wonder about you. You become another background figure, easy to reach, easy to dismiss. Availability is the behavior of those who have not yet understood the hierarchy of power. It reveals a hunger to please, a desire to be needed, an anxiety to stay relevant. And all of these things signal weakness to those who watch. In politics, in love, in leadership, those who make themselves too available are rarely taken seriously. They are used, not respected. They are accessed, not honored. They are tolerated, not followed. If you must always say yes, you lose your ability to say no. And if your no carries no weight, your yes becomes irrelevant. A powerful figure is not defined by how often they engage, but by how calculated their silence is. They are present with precision, not with emotion. They measure their involvement with strategy, not sentiment. Each appearance is deliberate, each word intentional, and each absence meaningful. In truth, those who are too available are not trusted. People assume they have nothing better to do, no greater mission, no deeper purpose. And what is easily gained is easily questioned. Why would someone of true value offer themselves so cheaply? Why would a person of real influence be at the beck and call of every request, every invitation, every insignificant matter? The answer is simple. They would. The powerful know that access must be limited to preserve authority. They know that detachment breeds control. They know that those who command respect do not run to the world runs to them. So to be constantly available is not kindness. It is self-sabotage. It is the forfeiture of power disguised as service. It is a hidden plea for attention dressed as generosity. But power does not ask. It waits. It withholds. It appears only when it chooses to. And in that act of self-restraint, it conquers without lifting a sword. When you are present, you are visible. When you are visible, you are interpreted. And when you are interpreted, you are often misunderstood, manipulated, or confined by the perceptions of others. But when you withdraw, when you step back, go silent, and vanish from the noise, you seize the one advantage most people never claim, the ability to control the narrative without speaking a word. The moment you remove yourself from the room, from the conversation, from the arena, people begin to speculate. Questions emerge. Why is he silent? Why did she leave? What is happening behind the curtain? And these questions are more powerful than answers, because answers limit you, but mystery multiplies your influence. The imagination of others can turn your silence into strength, your absence into legend, your detachment into dominance. When you are no longer constantly explaining, defending, or appearing, you become something far more dangerous, unpredictable. People fear what they do not understand. They whisper about what they cannot see. This is the weapon of absence. It creates doubt. It disturbs routine. It breaks expectations. While others speak endlessly, trying to prove their worth, you pull back and let their uncertainty do your work for you. Let them talk. Let them guess. The more they wonder about you, the more control you have over their mind. Because when you are absent, they must build an image of you in their heads, and they always build it bigger, stronger, darker, or more brilliant than you ever were in plain sight. This is how kings rule from a distance. This is how commanders unsettle enemies without lifting a blade. Withdrawal is not retreat. It is repositioning. It is a deliberate shift from being observed to becoming the observer. You begin to see the true faces of others. When you are not present to please them, you see who speaks truth and who lies in your. You see who stands firm and who falls apart without your shadow nearby. When you are constantly involved, you become a part of the background. Your words lose weight. Your presence loses energy. Your impact is dulled by repetition. But a sudden disappearance, an intentional silence, shifts the balance. It places everyone on edge. It resets the room. It forces the others to reconsider what your presence truly meant. And when you return not as a familiar voice, but as an event, a presence with gravity, one whose words are not just heard but anticipated. The greatest mistake a person can make in their pursuit of influence is to believe that constant engagement secures loyalty or respect. It does not. It secures dependency at best, contempt at worst. But when you withhold, you allow others to feel your absence. And only when someone feels your absence can they measure your importance. Silence makes your enemies nervous. It makes your rivals reckless. They speak too soon, act too quickly, miscalculate your next move. That is your advantage. Withdrawal gives you space to think and forces others to react. When you're always on stage, you're always exposed. But when you vanish, when you slip behind the curtain, when you choose the shadows over the spotlight, you become untouchable, because no one can strike what they cannot see. So when the moment comes, when the noise grows too loud, when the crowd presses in, when every eye is watching, don't be afraid to walk away. That is not weakness. That is the moment you reclaim control. That is the moment you stop performing and start command. Nothing reveals truth like absence. As long as you are present, giving, available, and attentive. People around you wear masks. They perform loyalty. They echo your words. They nod at your presence, not out of conviction, but out of convenience. They stay close because you offer warmth, access, or advantage. But the moment you step away, when your attention is no longer freely given, when your resources are no longer shared, you see who they truly are. Detachment is the knife that cuts through illusion. It exposes the nature of every relationship. When you distance yourself, some will grow angry, some will fall silent, some will disappear entirely. And that is the point. Loyalty that depends on constant presence is not loyalty. It is parasitism. It is rooted not in who you are, but in what you provide. The moment the benefit ends, the bond breaks. These are not allies. They are opportunists, and your availability has fed them for far too long. A man who is always near gives others no reason to reveal their true nature. He protects them from discomfort. He answers their calls before they feel his absence. But in doing so, he shields himself from the truth. Detachment removes that shield. It lets the snakes slither away. It lets the cowards retreat. It lets the false ones show their back. What is left is not a crowd, but something more valuable. Clarity. True loyalty thrives in silence, in absence, in uncertainty. It does not need constant reassurance. It does not require daily reward. When you pull back, and someone still reaches out, not to use you, not to flatter you, but simply to remain connected, that is loyalty. When your name still holds weight in a room you've left behind, that is loyal. When someone defends you even when you are not present to hear it, that is loyalty, and that cannot be bought. It must be revealed. The powerful understand this. They do not measure allegiance by proximity. They measure it by consistency in their absence. They know that loyalty is not loud. It is not performative. It is tested in the moments when you offer nothing, not advice, not money, not comfort, nothing. Who remains when there is nothing to gain? That is the question only detachment can answer. And there is another truth. The longer you remain constantly available, the harder it becomes to see the truth about those around you. Familiarity breeds assumption. Gratitude decays into entitlement. People begin to believe they deserve your time, your guidance, your energy. And when you finally withdraw, they react not with concern, but with resentment. Because your presence was never appreciated, only expected. You must never fear walking away, not from relationships, not from partnerships, not from crowds. The one who walks away is the one who controls the turn. You choose distance, not to punish others, but to see them more clearly. You step back, not because you are weak, but because you want to see who will step forward. It is in the void you leave behind that truth steps in, and though it may be painful, it is necessary. Because once you see who truly stands with you when you offer nothing, you'll never again be fooled by the applause of those who were only clapping to be seen. Authority is not granted freely, nor is it earned through constant effort. It is cultivated through perception. The more you are seen, the more ordinary you become. The more familiar your voice, the less it resonates. Authority demands distance. It demands scarcity. And this is where strategic absence becomes one of the most powerful tools in the hands of the calculating individual. When a person is constantly present, they lose their mystique. They become predictable. Their actions are no longer watched with interest, but with expectation. The moment people believe they understand you completely, they stop listening. They stop following. They start evaluating your every move as if they are your equals. But you are not their equal. Not if you intend to rule. Not if you intend to influence, to dominate, to lead. Authority is not democratic. It is not maintained by open access. It is preserved by controlling the flow of your presence. Those who hold real power do not walk among the masses every hour. They do not explain themselves at every turn. They do not justify their choices to all who question them. Why? Because the more you explain, the more you are seen, the more you are measured, and people will always find fault, even imperfection. Strategic absence eliminates this risk. It places you above daily scrutiny. It gives your presence a ceremonial weight, something noticed, anticipated, and respect. When you appear only at key moments, your presence becomes a symbol. People stand straighter, speak more carefully, think more deeply when you are near, because they do not know when you will return. You are no longer a man or woman. They see you as an event, and events are powerful. Events shift momentum. Events capture attention. This is the result of strategic absence. It is not laziness. It is not neglect. It is the discipline of power. Consider the greatest leaders, the most revered figures in history. They were not constantly available. They withdrew often. They let their lieutenants speak while they watched. They let rumors swirl while they remained silent. Their silence became a strategy.
Their disappearance created gravity. People feared their return. They speculated about their thoughts. They adjusted their behavior based on what they imagined, not what was said. This kind of psychological control is only possible when you understand how to wield your absence. You must resist the impulse to be everywhere, to comment on everything, to be known by everyone. That is the behavior of the desperate, the ones who chase influence, but never catch it. True authority is silent, patient, and selective. It knows that mystery commands more attention than explanation. It knows that the unknown carries more weight than the Every time you remove yourself, you create a vacuum, and in that vacuum, others feel your power more intensely than they did in your presence. They realize how many decisions you influenced, how many conflicts you prevented, how many situations you managed, simply by being there. This realization never comes while you are present. It only emerges in your absence. That is why the strategist learns to disappear not as a retreat, but as a display of strength. Your absence speaks louder than your presence ever could, because it tells the world you are not dependent on it. Instead, the world moves in reaction to you, and that, above all, is authority. Power is not only about action, it is about restraint. Your energy is your throne, and every time you spend it without strategy, you weaken the foundation on which your authority. Most people throw their energy into everyone and everything, believing that constant effort proves dedication. But the powerful know otherwise. They understand that energy is finite. It must be preserved, protected, and deployed only when the outcome justifies the cost. When you are too available, you spread yourself thin. Your thoughts become scattered. Your focus fractures. You become reactive rather than strategic, responding to every call, every complaint, every trivial matter that reaches your ear. And in doing so, you become less than what you are capable of. You begin to serve others' agendas instead of your own. You begin to solve problems that were never worthy of your attention. The world begins to drain you not because it is evil, but because you allowed yourself to be accessible to those who do not deserve your time. Guarding your energy means saying no, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. It means disappearing from places that deplete you, even if they once served you. It means walking away from people who confuse access with entitlement. Just as a king does not open the palace gates for every passerby, you must not allow every demand to enter your mind. Your presence must be earned. Your energy must be feared. This is not selfishness. It is sovereignty. You cannot lead, influence, or conquer anything if your energy is constantly hijacked by the unworthy. Every conversation, every argument, every uninvited interaction pulls you one step further from your vision, and while others waste hours explaining themselves to people who will never understand, you must remain focused on the larger battlefield. Your time, your peace, your power, these are your weapons. They are not to be offered freely. They are to be guarded like gold. The most dangerous individual is not the one who shouts or flails, but the one who watches, who listens, who speaks only when necessary. They do not react. They calculate. They conserve their fire for the moment it is most effective, and when they strike, they do so with force, because none of their power has been wasted on the trivial. This is the standard you must adopt. You must become selective in your battle. You must learn to ignore the barking of small dogs when your eyes are fixed on the lion's hunt. People will not understand this at first. They will call you distant, cold, even arrogant. Let them. Their confusion is confirmation that your energy has shifted to a higher plane. You are no longer playing their game. You are preserving yourself for something greater. Let them talk while you sharpen your mind. Let them complain while you rest your strength. Let them guess while you move in silence. Because when the moment demands it, when the critical opportunity arrives, you will be ready, undistracted, and dangerous. To guard your energy is to declare that your life is not open to chaos. It is to reclaim control over what enters your space. It is to remind the world that you are not here to be drained, but to dominate. Your energy is your empire. Protect it with the discipline of a ruler. Defend it with the pride of a king. Use it with the precision of a strategist. And you will not only outlast your enemies, you will make them kneel. Respect is not something that can be begged for, bought, or demanded through noise. True respect is born in the quiet moments, when your absence begins to speak louder than your presence ever could. When you remove yourself from a room, a circle, a situation, people begin to feel your weight. Not your words, not your charm, not your gestures, but your gravity. Silence, when wielded by the strong, is not emptiness, it is a throne. And absence is not a void, it is a mirror, forcing others to confront what you once provided without fully realizing it. The world often fails to value what it has in front of it. Familiarity makes even the extraordinary appear. When you are always available, people forget to measure your worth. They grow accustomed to your wisdom, your strength, your presence, as though it were air. But take that air away, remove your influence, withhold your insight, detach your presence, and suddenly, the atmosphere changes. That which they once took for granted, becomes mist, and in that space of longing, respect begins to form. This is why the wise ruler, the calculating mind, the powerful individual, does not fear stepping back. They do not tremble when they are not invited. They do not flinch when they are no longer included in every gathering or asked every question. They understand that the moment they exit, their value begins to grow. Silence makes the world reflect. Absence breeds evaluation. And when people begin to evaluate what they lost, respect starts to bloom, not from sentiment, but from comparison. Because in your silence, they must now compare what is left to what once was. Respect born of presence is shallow. It is often nothing more than politeness. People may smile to your face while resenting your existence, but respect born of absence, when no performance is taking place, is different. It is earned, it is remembered, it is whispered in rooms you never enter. When you walk away, if the room changes, if the tone shifts, if the conversation dulls, if the atmosphere loses tension, you know you left an imprint, and power is found in that imprint. It means you carried a presence, strong enough to bend reality, and in your absence, people feel that vacuum. Silence also removes the chance for others to judge you based on passing emotions. When you are no longer speaking, you are no longer vulnerable to misinterpretation. They cannot twist your words or question your tone. You become what they imagine, what they remember, what they now wish they had appreciated more fully. This is how absence reshapes memory. It edits your legacy in the minds of others, polishing what was flawed and amplifying what was noble. You become larger than you were, not because you changed, but because you disappeared. And this is the final truth. Those who must always be heard are rarely respected, but those who are missed when they fall silent hold a different kind of power. They are remembered, not for how loud they spoke, but for how different the world felt when they went quiet. That is the weight of true presence, and that weight only becomes known in its absence. Those who understand this principle do not cling to every interaction. They know when to disappear. They know when to say nothing, because in saying nothing, they often say the most, and in doing nothing, they are remembered for everything. When you stop being available, you cease to be ordinary. You become indispensable. You step out of the crowd, not by force, but by the quiet strength of absence. In that silence, respect is forged, loyalty is tested, and authority is claimed. Remember this: power does not chase, it waits. It does not plead, it commands. And the moment you choose to withhold your presence, you reveal to the world that you are not to be taken for granted, but to be sought after. In scarcity lies your strength. In absence, your dominion. Master this, and you master the game itself.